You're listening to A Slice of Therapy with me, Alun Parry. There's a well-known experiment that is done with rats, and it's called the tube test. And basically what the researchers do is they place two rats in a tube such that one rat has to push the other one out. And the rat which pushes the other one out is called the winner, and the rat which is pushed out is called the loser. And one of the things that they find from this research is that every time a rat wins, when they give it another tube test with a different rat, it's actually more likely to win that next tube test. And every time that a rat loses, it then becomes more likely to lose its next tube test. And you might think, as I did, well, maybe it's just like in all sports, maybe it's just a pretty effective rat. And yet the strange thing is that you get the same impact even when the rat is pushed by behind. So it gets help. It's not winning by its own effort, but it's just moving forward, pushing the other rat outwards. And so this is a strange thing, isn't it? Because it's not by its own efforts. It's not just that it's like a game of conkers, like a good conker's more likely to win its next fight after beating the old conker. It's actually when it gets artificial help. So it might be a puny little rat, but it still makes itself more likely to win the next tube test just by winning this one, albeit with some help. And what they notice is that what happens is that part of the front of the brain becomes more active in the winner, and the same part of the brain becomes less active in the loser. And in fact, they can actually, I'm not sure how ethical this is, but they can actually shut this stuff down. So a winning rat, you could shut down the activity and it becomes a loser, or increase the activity in the losing rat and it becomes a winner. And this is interesting because it links to how we become winners as well. Now, you see, there was an experiment in the 1960s by a guy named Robert Heath. And basically what happened with that is that he was able to drop electrodes in the brain of his subjects. Again, it seems a bit strange ethically, but this is what he did. And people were able to choose, the ones with the electrodes in their brain, they were able to choose to stimulate different parts of the brain. So you'd be able to stimulate a part of the brain which resulted in laughter, or a part of the brain that resulted in sexual arousal, or, all these different responses that you could get. You could ask them, okay, do that one again. Now, the most popular part of the brain, the most popular response that the people kept on asking wasn't for laughter and wasn't for things like sexual arousal, as you might imagine. The most popular part of the brain that they were wanting to be stimulated is the part which resulted in them feeling mild frustration plus a hint of anger at the same time. Which is a strange phenomenon, isn't it, really? Because one would think that we'd be after a more joyous kind of experience if we could just basically press a button and choose a particular response. But the one that they kept on going back to all the time was mild frustration and a hint of anger. Now, I'm telling you about these two studies because they actually intermap. The people who do the tube test, where they were talking earlier on about this part of the brain that becomes more active in the winner but less in the loser, and that part of the brain actually makes you more likely to win next time around. That was actually mapped to the very same area of mild frustration and a hint of anger that Robert Heath's experiment came up with. And so this part of the brain where the winning rats get increased activity is the same part of the brain that Robert Heath showed produced mild frustration and a hint of anger. Now, the key difference, what the researchers found, is that brain area increased. Like, why does it increase with the winning rat but decreases with the losing rat? And what they found is that brain area that is denoted with a future prediction of winning more increases according to forward movement. So one of the rats is feeling this frustration and hint of anger and is being moved backwards. It's pausing, it's standing still, and it's being moved backwards as it loses. And so that part of the brain, which is essentially the winning part of the brain, if you like, if I can make it that simplistic, that wasn't being stimulated in the same way. But those who are moving forward, those rats that move forward towards victory, that forward movement is the very thing, according to the researchers, which increased the brain activity. And the brain activity in that part of the brain that increases makes you more likely to win next time. And so this is interesting, isn't it? Because the thing that is key is forward movement. Both rats are in the same amount of stress. Both rats are feeling mild frustration and a hint of anger as they're each in each other's way. But one of the rats is able to keep on moving forward. And it's that forward momentum that increases the brain activity in that front part of the brain. And it's the increased brain activity in that front part of the brain that is predictive of that rat going on and winning again and again and again. And so what the researchers know from this is that forward movement is what helps us become winners. Now, forward movement, as we're moving forward, it also releases dopamine in order to encourage us to keep on moving forward. And so the way for you to kind of feel like a winner is just to give yourself something small to move forward towards. Now, the brain doesn't actually care, and the dopamine system doesn't care what it is that you're moving towards. It just wants that forward momentum. And when you've got that forward momentum and that challenge, that mild frustration and a hint of anger that you're moving beyond and moving forward nonetheless when faced with that challenge, that is the thing that converts into the brain activity in the front of your brain that predicts you becoming a winner. And so what can we learn from those two experiments? Well, the one thing that we can learn is that if we can find something to move forward on, that is something of a challenge, it doesn't have to be a big challenge, but if we give ourselves a little challenge and we give ourselves a sense of forward momentum, then not only will it make us feel happier with that dopamine release, but it will actually make us more likely to win in the future. And so if you have a small project that you're working on and you notice that you're making progress on that small project, then you'll be experiencing the very same thing that those rats in the tube test were. You'll be feeling like a winner. And in fact, as you complete each step and as you get that forward momentum and as you complete that project, you'll become more likely to do the next one. Similarly, those people who have short to-do lists, if you have 3 or 4 things to do that day and you manage to move forward, you'll actually start noticing that you feel good. And the reason why you feel good is the same reason that rat is feeling good as he starts moving forward through the tube. And then when you complete everything for the day, then you'll get that sense of victory. So the way that we become winners, according to these tests, according to this research, is to have forward momentum on something. And when we have forward momentum on something, that is actually going to give us the sense that we're winning at life. And so my invite to you is to give yourself small projects to aim towards. And that project could be a set of unrelated items on a very short to-do list. But if you wake up in the morning, say, with 3 things to do and you move forward towards doing them, then what you'll likely notice is that you'll feel happier and you'll get that sense of forward movement which builds that part of the brain which actually makes it more likely that you're going to win next time. You see, the reason what we like that feeling of mild frustration and a hint of anger is because we were designed to push beyond that. We were designed to face the annoyance of the challenge and move forward and overcome it and get that dopamine release that feels good. And when we do that, and when we keep doing that, and when we set up life so that we're able to have these forward movement challenges for ourselves in such a way that we keep meeting those challenges and overcoming them, then we start to feel like a winner. And not just feel like a winner, but the brain activity in the front of our brains will do just what it did with the rats. It will increase in activity. And that increase in activity is going to make it more likely that you'll win tomorrow as well. So if you like this idea, then please feel free to spread it on to others who might find it helpful. You can work with me directly. I'm Alun Parry. You can find me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, please subscribe to the podcast because it's completely free and there's a new episode every day and it makes sure that you'll never miss an episode again. So thanks for listening and I'll be back again tomorrow with another one.